Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the July 18th, 2018 City Council regular meeting.
Hey, Tom. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach, July 18th, 2018, approximately 7 p.m. Please join Vice Mayor Montanaro for a moment of silence in the pledge.
Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here this evening to make decisions for our city. Please watch out over our first responders. Please watch out over our military forces that are deployed across the world in this country, and help us to make good decisions this evening. Amen. If you'll join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, the podium is open for citizens' comments. This will be for non-agenda items. So it's open for non-agenda items.
Good evening. Dale Abrams, Ocean Street, Lenore. Did we get this mic fixed?
Yes, I did.
Excellent. I love the new recycling bins that are on Sunrise and Shell Street and Grant. And the question is, when is Magellan and DeSoto going to get them?
Those next rounds are in the next budget cycle, so we'll get them in there.
So next year?
Yep, right after October starts, we can get them.
Okay, cool. And does Waste Management pick up the
No, the city staff does.
city staff does? Okay, all right, so I don't have to worry about Rodney Smith putting cans in my recycling bin in the future.
You actually no longer
You might
have to worry about that.
Rodney, you know.
Okay, all right. Yeah, they're really nice, and I think that's a great idea.
Well, thank
So
you. I
thank you
appreciate
for
that.
doing that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, the still open for non-agenda items. Non-agenda items. Non-agenda item, please.
Hi, my name is Stell Bailey. I just have one question. City Manager Courtney Barker, are you still currently a member of Satellite Beach Health and Hope for Tomorrow private group?
Well, I think the issue we're having is I can be a member of it, and I don't mind being one, but every time I respond, I have to screenshot it to comply with public records. So if I'm going to be on there a lot and answering a lot of questions for people in that particular page, we need to add it to our public records archiving program. And I think I've talked to Dr. Greenwald quite a bit about that, and she had conveyed that to you. If that's not possible, then I can stay on there to see what the concerns are, but you won't see me respond very much, largely because of that issue.
Okay, because it's a violation of sunshine law, correct?
Only if I don't screenshot it. It's a public records issue, not sunshine.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Podium still open, non-agenda items.
I would like to point out that this was
Excuse me,
a...
ma'am. You
Yes,
need to state your name and and your address.
My name is Erin Hegedus, and I live in South Patrick Shores. And I wanted to address the fact that the Satellite Beach Health and Hope for Tomorrow has always been intended to be a private Facebook group, not for city official use, definitely not for screenshotting. This is a Facebook page that people share their medical history and their private addresses. So I just want to make it clear for the record that this was never intended for city officials to make any sort of screenshot. That's exactly why the Sunshine Law is in effect.
Well, you all are welcome to take me off the group. I mean, somebody added me. I didn't ask to be in it.
I will also say,
so-
no, you requested to be
Ma'am,
part of this?
just direct it to here.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Courtney Barker had to request to be part of this group. She had to be approved. There was another council member that also requested to be part of it, and she was smart enough to have politely removed herself this morning when it was brought to her attention that this violated the Sunshine Law. So I just want to say that there are those of us in the community that are not okay with screenshotting anything on that page.
Okay, sorry, thank you for your comment.
If we wanted it public,
Thank you
it would
for
have
your
been made
comment.
public.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Public podium still open for non-agenda items.
I just need to respond to that,
Please.
because we don't have to be part of it. I mean, I'll get out of it today. We were invited to be there, so that's why we're there. If people don't want us on there, we'll be glad to not be on there. I mean, it's no big deal. Secondly, it may be private, but there's 3,000 members to that page. So in screenshotting, I screenshot my comments to comply with public record law only. I don't go screenshotting everybody's, and anybody in that group can screenshot it too. So, to me, this is creating an adversarial relationship where there doesn't need to be one. We're all trying to work for the same purpose. If there's, a problem with that, people can pick up the phone and call me and let me know. I haven't got one phone call from anyone that has a problem with it. So I put my phone on there. I put my cell phone for people to call me. Nobody's done that. So, yeah, we can certainly leave that page. I think there's probably people on that page that would like to see our responses. No big deal. But if that's what the admins want, by all means, take us off. We don't need to be there. So.
For now,
Okay.
I'm going to leave this to your discretion since you are the one that's on it. Mindy, you have anything you want to add?
I just wanted to add that when I originally, just because I'm a council member does not mean I'm not a human being, and I haven't lived here for 30 years. And my father died from cancer. And when I originally added myself to that group was for those purposes, for my personal purposes. The only reason why I made any comments is because I'm noticing misinformation, and I wanted to make clear that everyone understood what was going on. There's no personal attacks.
No.
There's no personal attacks. There was no vendettas. There was nothing ill will. It was just simple data and information, and that's the way we work. And I removed myself because of the information being misconstrued, and I also didn't want to be involved into the streaming of what was going on. I have people on there that I'll be having coffee with, that I've had conversations with, that are good people, and we'll have individual conversations at those times. So,
Thank you.
Agreed. I think it's creating an atmosphere that doesn't need to be created, and
Sorry, there's no discussion on this. I'm
we're
sorry.
all here for the same purpose. I have children here. I've lived here since I was 11. I went to Satellite High School too. I graduated from there. To think that we're any different than you is ridiculous. And so we're.
Excuse me, ma'am, there's no discussion. No. Ma'am, I'm going to give you one more warning, and then I'm going to have you removed.
I'll be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sunshine Law applies to
Thank you.
government agency employees, not residents.
Okay, thank you. The podium's still open for citizens' comments for non-agenda items. Non-agenda items. Hearing no further, we'll move on to city council comments.
I have none.
Okay, Mark?
No.
Okay. Mindy, any further? No?
Yeah, I attended on the 9th, the Beautification Board workshop meeting that Courtney was at, and the Beautification Board is going to be putting forth some information to council on how they're addressing their new mission statement and some other things that they're looking at doing to maybe get some more awareness to the Beautification Board. I also attended, and Courtney was there also on the 12th. Bobby Pruitt, the new principal at Satellite High, had one of his update meetings at Delora and Satellite High, and I'm thrilled that he's there as the new principal. He gave us a lot of good information about what's going on, what their plans are, and it was a great meeting, so I'm glad I was able to attend that. And I just wanted to say one thing, just for people that are out there. There were comments made about sunshine. What was being done had nothing to do with sunshine. It has to do with public records. And anytime any one of us sitting up here tweets, texts, emails, it's public record. It's not regarding city business. It is not sunshine issues that were being talked about by the two individuals who are up here. It's public records. And Florida has very strict public record laws. And that's basically what was being done by these individuals, is making sure that anytime they commented on something that had to do with the city of Satellite Beach, That is a public record document, not a sunshine issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one thing on the school principal changes. I had the opportunity to meet Principal of Delora. And you kind of know when you're getting old, when you look at him, he starts to laugh at you, and he said, "You remember me growing up at your house?" So,
I remember that.
So, great guy, Jeremy, was a soccer player here, hung out with the Hobgoods and the surfer, and really great to see, I think, the principal and the leadership we're getting at the high school and the junior high. I think is going to be really great. Any further comment from council? Okay, hearing none. Move on to city attorney's report. Jim?
I don't have anything.
Thank you. City manager, Courtney.
Thank you, Mayor. On Tuesday, July 24th at 6:30 at the DRS Center, we will be presenting on the topic of growth and development in Satellite Beach, and we're going to try to give kind of a history of land acquisition and beachfront acquisition to the community. You know, a lot of the rumors that we're seeing on Facebook, we're going to try to address some of those issues that people have. We're going to also talk about height and density zoning and new development projects that are going up now that were planned a long time ago but are just now getting built. So we hope that we get a good crowd for that. Postcards went out to every resident for that meeting as well. Water testing is scheduled to begin, did begin July 17th with results back by July 31st. I'm scheduled to present these results at a meeting with the community on the cancer cluster issue on August 5th at 2 p.m. at the Civic Center. We may talk about revising that presentation a little bit at this point. Also, Fire Chief Don Hughes has retired from the city after 25 years, and David Abernathy, who's in the audience tonight, is now our interim chief until further notice. So, congratulations to him. We received an email from Debbie Robinson thanking the paramedic program for their community service, which is in your packet. We received a thank you note from Christine Hendricks expressing her appreciation to the fire department for their response to an auto accident. That's also in your packet. And also, we received notification that we received the Firehouse Subs Safety Foundation grant for the police department to purchase a 2018 Suzuki ATV valued at $9,901. So that's great news. And so I think, you know, that's an important thing for the community to know is a lot of those pieces of equipment we don't actually pay for with tax dollars. We get a lot of grants for those things. And then last but not least, we have your fiscal year 18-19 budget in front of you. So we hope that you review that. We will be holding a special meeting on July 25th to go over the entire budget in its entirety and go through all that. So.
Brittany and staff, incredible job.
Yeah,
Just
good.
really
That's
had a
really
chance to
Brittany.
look over it.
Very fancy.
Great. Easy to read. The tabs are great and very good. And thank you for the work.
I can tell Brittany must be that colored pictures. Gotta love that.
The pictures in there are great. The staff really put a lot of effort into making them fun, and it's a good.
Great.
It's good.
Just one thing regarding David's interim position. I'd just like the opportunity, if it's okay with you, if I could meet with David.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd just like to sit down and talk with you, if that's okay? Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Great, thank you. Any questions for city manager? Courtney, anything else? No? Okay. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to move up agenda item 10 with permission of council. Discuss, take action on the placement of public work vehicles under an agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management. See that?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, members of council. This is an item we actually, I think Courtney may have mentioned at one of our prior meetings where we were discussing capital asset needs and the difficulty in finding enough funding to allocate all the needs that the city has. And so we're considering something that we've never done before, essentially as a pilot program. And what this would entail is essentially leasing vehicles rather than purchasing them. So in the audience this evening with me, I have Sheldon Brown from Enterprise Fleet Management, so he'll be available to answer any questions you might have beyond just the overview I'm about to give you. So essentially, this will be an item that there's an existing contract with the City of Lake City. They have an RFP that is available to piggyback with those rates and terms, and so we'd be recommending waiver of bid process if we move forward with this. and asking you to authorize the city manager to execute the master equity lease agreement. But the long and short of it is, we have, since Courtney became city manager, worked to be able to cycle through and update our fleet when it came to police vehicles, when it came to the fire trucks, when those opportunities arose, and some of the administrative vehicles when we were able to fund them. But we have had a very difficult time finding funding that we could dedicate toward public works vehicles. And as Alan will tell you, he's asked every year, but we just haven't been able to put that money toward those vehicle replacements. And so, you know, it's beginning to cost us more to maintain these vehicles, but we just, you know, can't fund even a single one has been the problem. So what we identified is that for a $40,000 line item, we can actually lease 4 vehicles and replace the 4 oldest, most expensive, you know, costing us the most money to maintain vehicles. And they're in your chart there, and you can see the mileage. These are, you know, the oldest vehicle was 1997, you know, a Chevy truck. So these are vehicles that have served their purpose for the city for many, many years. And so what we're recommending is replacement of 1 dump truck that is in desperate need of replacements, 1 F-250 pickup truck, and 2 F-150s. The dump truck will be actually on a 60-month lease, and that has to do with the value of the vehicle and the trade-in value when you get to the end of the lease. And the other 3 vehicles will be on a 12-month lease. What we'd like to do, with your permission, is try this out, get vehicles that are more reliable for public works, have those in play, and at the end of, you know, this first year, we'll come back to you and talk about how the program went, what the results were, and discuss whether, you know, at that point in time, we actually have the funding to buy vehicles outright, if we want to buy the vehicles we've been leasing, because that's an option as well, or if we want to continue with this lease program. It's interesting, there have been a number of cities and counties going towards this type of program. And in fact, the Brevard County Property Appraiser is a local example. I believe most, if not all, of their fleet has transitioned over to a lease program in recent years. So with that, that's pretty much the basic overview. I'm happy to answer questions, or like I said, Sheldon is, you know, well versed in some of the nuances of this if you've got questions.
Okay, thank you. Please.
So typically when you hear, I've never leased a vehicle, but when you hear about vehicles being leased, are we going to have, is it going to be the same scenario? You might want to come up.
Come join.
So my concern is these are public works vehicles. How much are we going to be dinged for dings and scratches, and how does that work at the end of the lease? Because these are obviously going to be used hard, right? What are we looking at to protect ourselves to not have to pay out a big chunk of money at the end of the lease?
Yeah, definitely. So the way that the program works on those 12-month models, it really partners the government ability with incentives with enterprises' ability to turn resale vehicles into a science. That's actually the most prominent way that enterprise makes money, is buying a vehicle well, selling them at the right time. So ultimately it's doing the same thing that you guys would be doing with that. The way that the vehicle would work with mileage and damage per se, hopefully on a 12-month term, your guys aren't doing too much to it, but I mean, even if they are, it's not something that you would be affected by in terms of fees. It would just affect resale at the end of term.
Okay.
But a lot of that, in the numbers that you've been given, has been accounted for, and they're reserved numbers on the resale of vehicles.
Okay. I had the same concern, exactly that.
Yeah, I read it and I was like, this sounds good. And why didn't we pick the car that had 200,000 miles on it to replace the Sierra?
Who insures the vehicles? Does Enterprise insure the vehicles, or do we insure the vehicles?
That would be us. It would be our insurance, yep. Mm-hmm.
And then the 12-month period after the cycle starts again, you pick up that particular pickup truck, and if we decide to do it, then we get
That's correct.
another one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Further questions? At this time, I'd like to open up public comment on agenda item 10.
Ron Dragudis, resident of Satellite Beach, Florida. I have a question about this. When we look at those vehicles that have been here a long time, they've lasted past their period of payments, obviously, if they were on payments. Has anybody looked at how long they lasted versus the payments? And do we have a number for the maintenance costs currently going on with them? And I know trucks last a while. I had one that lasted close to 300,000 miles. Ran good on a farm. So what do you get out of this? If this is the way you want to proceed, try it for a year and see what you think, fine, but maybe there should be a process to purchase these trucks, maybe even used ones for the city. Just saying.
Thank you very much for your input. Podium still open? Comment on this agenda item? Bring it back here, none. Bring it back to council. Alan, you keep these vehicles. I mean, I've seen them driving around town. Even though sometimes you look at the mileage, they're pretty hard miles that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know we keep track of repair records, and you usually only come to us when they get to a point where that repair cost is exceeding.
Right, and now they're at the point where they're just nickel and diming us. You know, there's a problem here, problem there, tie rod ends, you know, things like that. But the biggest problem is you have rust issues, you have, and they're work trucks. I mean, the one night in 1997, we've had it for 21 years. You know, you can't have a truck for 21 years and not have some damage to the inside of the vehicle, you know, and the elements tear them up. So, you know, we haven't had a new vehicle in 8 years, and that tells you something. At least we're good about taking care of them, but at some point they outlive their useful life, and you know, it's not like a personal vehicle. They're work trucks.
Thank you very much.
Can I come on that, Sue? So the way that the program is working, obviously pickup trucks can last a long time, but because government's incentives are so high on these trucks, basically what we're showing over 12 months is you can operate this vehicle for a cost neutral, so at basically no cost to, and the numbers show that, obviously a better vehicle, more fuel efficient, lower liability, safer being out on the streets, as well as maybe 1-2 oil changes, and that's it. So that's really how the program works and why it makes sense.
Okay, great. Dominic?
You know, I look at this as, you know, staff's come to us over the last few years with suggestions on how we can better utilize our dollars, and I think this is just another example of them coming to us and saying, let's try it. And I'm looking at this as I'm willing to do that. So I'd make a motion to authorize the waiver of the bid process to contract with Enterprise Fleet Management under the City of Lake City's RFP number 0102010.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer. And just, right, the dump truck is a 60-month, correct? Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Lenore?
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
I did.
Councilman Breimer.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes.
I'd like to make another motion to authorize the city manager to execute the master equity lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management pending final approval of the agreement by the city attorney to lease 4 replacement vehicles for the Public Works Department.
I'll second that too.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer. Further discussion from council? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you for your work. Thank you, staff. Question, Jim, I think I maybe want to adjust the agenda again. Maybe, I think looking at the audience, there's probably a fair number of people here for agenda item 12. Okay. Since it is a public hearing, it's not time specific or anything? Okay. Is that okay with everyone?
Please.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So at this time, we'll go to agenda item 12, the public hearing, discuss, take action on ordinance 1159. Jim?
Ordinance number 1159, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending the coastal management/conservation element of the 1998 Comprehensive Plan as amended April 5, 2017, based on the city's updated data and analysis of the Comprehensive Plan, revising and updating existing goals, objectives, and policies concerning properties within the city's Erosion Adaptation Action Area, EAA, in accordance with mandates set forth in Chapter 163 Florida statutes, authorizing transmittal of these amendments to the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, State Land Planning Agency, and other applicable agencies for review and comment as required by Florida statutes, providing a conflicts clause and severability clause, providing an effective date. It's a second reading of ordinance number 1159.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1159 on second reading.
I have a motion by...
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Vice Mayor Montanaro. Discussion from council.
So I just want to make sure I'm fully clear on it. The setback is changing for homes that, if damaged by floods, and floods alone, will not be able to rebuild? Or is it total damage regarding, even if it's a fire or anything else? It doesn't matter? They won't be able to rebuild? That was kind of unclear. Does that make sense what I'm asking? So is it whatever house is past that line right now? Mm-hmm. I understand, like in a hurricane, and if we have high waters, at some point we all have to come to terms with the fact that the waves are just going to keep getting closer and closer, and I get that. But if a house, example, burns to the ground because of a lightning strike, will they be able to rebuild in their existing footprint, or do they have to rebuild past the new line?
So this is the comprehensive plan amendment, which is setting the broad policy.
Okay.
So you'll see those very specifics on rebuilding and the other setback changes we're making to lessen the impact, like to the front of the building and stuff like that. That'll all be in the ordinance, which is 1160, and that'll be coming back to you as soon as it goes to P&Z, which is going
Monday, July 23rd.
Monday, July 23rd.
All right. I read this all wrong, so don't listen to me.
And that also includes variance process, because the board, the PAB board, recommended that we go back to the drawing board, look at the 15 feet, but they wanted to have some type of variance process in that. So we put that together, and that'll be presented to them on Monday.
Okay.
So that is in there, because I know you and I have talked on that, on the variance that.
Yeah.
Okay. Further
Yeah.
questions?
And so that agenda is actually coming out tomorrow.
I think it went out today.
Or it went out today. It went out today. Okay. Yeah. So it's on the web?
It should be on the web.
It's on the web. Okay.
I'll open up for public comment when we're finished here. I will as soon as we open for public. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Further questions from
I have no question.
council? Everybody okay? Yep. Okay. At this time, open up for agenda item 12 for public comment.
Ron Jagutis, resident of Satellite Beach, and concerns with the property located at 620 Ocean Street. Current ordinance number 1159 is simply a full taking of property with no mitigation, no variance process provision. The effects, the value on the property, appraisals, possibly obtaining financing, including insurance. And then why was a protest? I don't know if everyone's aware that a protest was filed on the first reading on 1159. And it was dropped due to the fact that it would go back, presumably, to the Planning Advisory Board and be looked at. And then we have a companion bill, Ordinance 1160. You're passing 1159 that may contradict 1160. And to get this thrown at us again is absurd. There's going to be a nightmare here. And then, to add further, the clarity. I'd like to know, whereas the city has reviewed the proposed amendments to the comprehensive plan, and said proposed amendments were reviewed by the city's local planning agency. Who's the city's local planning agencies? Is that the PAB board?
Courtney?
Yes.
Yes.
It is the PAB board. They didn't approve this. They didn't approve the 15-foot.
If I'm not mistaken, Courtney, 1160 will be the one where those are in.
But I have nothing in front of me.
1160 is not on our...
I can't.
Excuse me, let me answer your question. You might not agree, but let me just answer the question. 1160 is not in front of us. 1160 still has to go to P&Z, and then will be back to us. And that will have the information on it that I believe you are asking for. This is 1159.
Well, my additional point is, if it's a companion, 1160, you're passing 1159 right now. Is it truly going to work with 1160? That's almost double jeopardy for us. We don't know what's in 1160. You can tell me what's in there. We dropped the protest because what we were portrayed to think. And it was not done.
Thank you.
And then I have a point of order. I have a neighbor who's not healthy right now, and I'd like a couple of minutes to present his case.
You have
3 minutes.
I'm letting everybody have
Okay.
no, I'm letting everybody have 3 minutes. You have
So
your 3
I
minutes.
don't have a point of order
No.
to speak for my neighbor who's
No.
got prostate cancer.
No, sir.
I don't have, even though I've got verbal authorization.
That's fine, sir, but no. 3 minutes.
Really?
3 minutes, yes, sir. 3 minutes,
Amazing.
everybody speak.
Amazing. This is a
Thank
huge
you.
thing.
Okay, appreciate it. Courtney, will you clarify a little bit on 1159 to 1160, just for the audience, the difference?
Well, 1159 is the broad comp plan change,
Okay.
which, when we adopt the implementing land development regulation changes, has to be consistent with what we're doing today. So that is, that, you know, we can't adopt an ordinance later that's inconsistent with this. So that's one point. Secondly, it's many times when the process goes through the boards and through staff analysis and, you know, through DCA or DEO, I'm sorry, language changes from transmittal to adoption, and that's what's happening here.
Thank you. Podium's still open. There was a gentleman in the audience. Excuse me, sir. You had your hand up before, and I said I would take it. So please come to the podium, and then I'll get the next gentleman in the back. I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure I got him.
Thank you.
Yes.
Robert Kerrigan, I live at 632 Ocean Street, and we're part-time residents, so we're not here all the time, so forgive me. I met most of you or seen most of you, but I don't know. We live in a townhouse, so I'm a center unit townhouse, so it's a sort of unique situation as opposed to an individual house. And I think we're the only set of townhouses in Satellite Beach, if I'm not mistaken. There are some further north and there are some further south. But the restrictions that are being placed on us with especially the breezeway and the rest like that really starts to squeeze in on each of our individual houses. If you have a larger house and it's 72 feet, that's roughly, you know, what our building is, and you take away 12 feet because of the breezeway requirements, because we have 100 feet in the front end, you know, then you got a 60-foot wide house. Well, that's no real big problem in our site. You still got plenty of room. In our particular case, though, because of that, it ends up taking away about 20% of the width of our property. And then, of course, with the 15 feet, we push it even further forward and the rest like that. And so it just seems like it's going to really affect the overall value of our house and whatever if we do tend to rebuild. And I'm sorry, but earlier, the reason I was raising my hand was, again, I'm trying to remember everything here that goes on with the city and the terminology and the rest like that. But I think at the last meeting, you were supposed to review 1159 and maybe rewrite it with some exceptions or variance approvals and the rest. Is that what's in the current bill that's being voted on?
Right. So what we did was, because the planning board wanted a variance process, so that's what the language change discusses. It basically says that the land development regulations will include basically standards for construction and things like that. So we can create a variance process in the ordinance that's coming forward Monday, which is in there. Yeah. Yeah, that's correct.
Not 1159.
I'm sorry, 1160, ordinance
Yes, sir.
1160.
At the,
50, I'm sorry.
yeah, 1160, if I'm not mistaken, at the last meeting, one of the recommendations that I heard from most of the board members was, and I think what was brought up was on the 25 feet, there was some variances if you went with the county, but they've never issued one.
So the other-
we wanted 15 because all those
Right.
board members said, hey, how about variance? So, yes.
We created a
heard
little
that.
bit more lenient process on the variances.
Okay.
But the other issue is, for you to understand, is right now, you have a 25-foot front setback. The ordinance that we're putting in front of the Planning and Zoning Board, or Planning Advisory Board, shifts the whole building up. So even while we're requiring a 15-foot in the back by the ocean, we're reducing the front to 5 feet. So you have a shift towards your property. And in that way, we're just basically trying to shift the whole property up to the, away from the ocean. And so we're not reducing the building envelope footprint. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay.
It's just a problem. Ocean Street is a different street because it comes at an angle.
Yeah.
You take Beach Street down here, and it's really a north-south, and the backyards and the properties are pretty much the same. With our angle, and of course, I live about halfway up the street, it becomes much more narrow. So that coastal construction, there's another C in there,
Well,
whatever that stands
the
for.
other opportunity, which Mr. Jagutis brought into my attention in a meeting, was the possibility of making that road a one-way. And we look at, doing a right-of-way vacation and providing property to the property owner from the road, and then we basically do a swap. Like, we get that little area in the back by the dunes, which is a good thing for you, but we're trying to move the buildings closer, so you'll get more buildable area with the street. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's some of the creative things that we could do.
And like you said, we're just a little bit in a
Thank you, and
unique
we're going to
situation.
have, again,
Yeah.
1160 will be from the P&Z and then to us twice.
Right.
So there'll be
And-
plenty of time for that.
Okay.
thank
It's just,
you.
we're concerned about that, and if there's any way of grandfathering in something for those folks that are here now and the rest like that. I mean, it's just the overall value of the property and what we've bought and what we've worked so hard for and the rest like that.
And I
It's
can
just
tell you
our
from our
concern.
end, what we're trying to do is make sure you keep that value of your property. We don't want it, and we don't want to see you get destroyed where
Yeah.
you can't have it.
Sure. We pay some
Thank
taxes
you.
too on that, quite a few. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Gentlemen in the back, thank you.
Good evening, Maurice Arcadia. I'm a local attorney. I'm representing 5 homeowners located at 610, 620, 626, 630, and 634 Ocean Drive, or Ocean Street, sorry. But my position, or I submit to you, that 1159 should be done in conjunction with 1160. There are many good ideas to minimize or mitigate the impact that it's going to have in many of homeowners, and that's all the time I keep hearing that it's going to be 1160. But to do them separately, you're going to have a procedural mess. You're going to have a protest on 1159 that is going to be ongoing to the state of Florida, and then you're going to be passing 1160, and who knows what the state will do concerning that. There's still plenty of time within your 180-day window to not table it and do it together at 1159, and you might prevent a lot of procedural messes.
Okay, thank you very much. Podium still open?
Dale Abrams, Ocean Street. How many of you have seen a map of these properties that are going to be affected? Besides the map from the building official?
No, I've seen
Seen
them.
maps.
Yeah, I've seen the
Okay.
maps, yeah. I grew up across the street from there.
There are going to be, I know we talked about 26 homes
Mhm.
affected, and then I think 2 empty lots. They're going to be, hand them out. There's going to be condos that are going to be affected. The Colonnade, Las Olas, Sand Dollar? Is it called Sand Dollar? That older one?
I'm not sure.
I think it's something like that. So there's going to be a huge impact. And at the end of the day, this really is a taking. And for those of you who may not be aware of this, in 1987, after the major storm, Thanksgiving storm, there was litigation due to erosion that occurred in the Atlantic and also in Cape Canaveral. You know, I have to agree with Ron. You're looking at valuations, you're looking at insurance issues, and you're looking at mortgages. Okay? So who is going to lend you money to purchase a property if you've got these issues? And of course, these issues need to be disclosed when you purchase or buy a property. I believe you just did that with the peg legs deal. So, you know, you really need to think this through as far as that's concerned. I've been here for 20 years, okay? We have never flooded on our street from the ocean. We're 14 feet. We're higher than we are here. So, you know, I think you need to look at this, and as far as these maps are concerned, you can all look at them, and I'm going to take them back because I'm bringing them to the meeting on Monday to show Planning Advisory Board, okay? But there's the lines there. If you can't see them, I brought a magnifying glass so you can see them. There's a purple line and there's a blue line. And I got these documents from DEP. So take a close look at it and see who is affected. And then somebody was asking me, why on earth did you allow those two houses to be built on Shell Street? I don't know the answer to that. You know.
The code allows it.
Because the code allows it. They're legal. We can't stop it. We want to try to make this as safe as possible for everybody. And
I mean, we got a property that's for sale right now on Beach Street that could be affected because of what you're proposing to do.
okay, thank you very much. Public comment is still open. John?
John Fergus, 135 Maple. I was part of the group that made the original recommendation to do this. This is hard times with coastal erosion. And I would suggest after I sit down that Jim have a good discourse so the folks in the audience really understand the difference between 1059 and 1060. 1059 has to go through DCA, come back, be adopted before the council can do anything with 1060. So there's a process here, and you can't just send them out together because then the folks in Tallahassee will have problems with it. And as far as the setbacks and stuff, and maybe somebody needs to do a little clarification, at least in the version...
Can you hand them out later for us, please? We have a speaker up here now. Thank you.
In the version that I'd last seen, the front setback, the side setbacks could be changed. There were different adjustments. Building could be built higher so you wouldn't lose square footage, things like that. And the question came up, why did they allow to build on Shell Street? Because the code said they could, and they got variances. Those houses should not have been built the way they were built. But that's the changing times. And if folks think it's hard now, wait for 10 or 20 years and see what happens. And by the way, it is not flooding that's the issue. It's coastal erosion. That's why it's an erosion adaptation action area. It's erosion, the loss of sand. It's not water in your living room.
Thank you. Public comment still open? Hearing no further public comment, bring it back to council and staff. Courtney, so this one Michelle, this one goes to DCA first, correct? 11:59.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this and council.
Mr. Judas, please. We'll get those if you leave them with our city clerk.
I think we
She'll
get
hand
the
them to
picture,
us.
yeah, we get that.
Thank you.
I'm just passing them.
Sorry.
That's okay. For clarification, this is a two-pronged process. The city has worked long and hard on data and analysis and an understanding of what's happening with our coastline over the last several years, and has modified the comprehensive plan to include both an inland adaptation area and an erosion adaptation area. The inland one being over on the South Patrick side, if you will, and the erosion adaptation area east of A1A. And they each have their own issues. And a year or so ago, you modified the comprehensive plan to introduce this area, the concerns of the area, and how you want to proceed with governing and regulating proper development within the area. This is just part of that process. It is kind of the next step. It's to literally draw a line in the sand to the extent that, because of what Mr. Fergus just said is exactly correct. The issue in this particular area stems from erosion, storm surge, hurricanes, sea level rise, climate change, and many other unique characteristics, the most troublesome of which is erosion. And so erosion not only affects the private sector, but it also affects the public sector. And we have investments in that area as well. And so in order to really make good decisions and encourage both the private and public sector to make good decisions, it was time to put into the comp plan, which is your constitution, if you will, your global policy, your 30,000-foot level look-see of the general policies legislatively, what you want to do with the particular areas. So you've said, okay, first of all, we're going to establish this area, which we've done. We have a map that shows it, and we have set forth some basic parameters that will be further fleshed out within your land development code, and that's where it should be. The comp plan is not where you have detailed specific requirements and the minutia. I'm going to call it the minutia. It's important minutia, but that belongs in your land development code. So what this says is basically a few basic premises that sets forth what we have to do in the land development code, and that is that any new development and redevelopment that comes into this area east of A1A, it's going to have to be set back 15 feet from your coastal construction control line. If you have a pre-existing building or a structure that's located in this area, if it's impacted by those things I mentioned, erosion, storm surge, hurricanes, or sea level rise, or other disaster of that kind, may rebuild their pre-existing building or structure no closer than 15 feet landward of the CCCL. But then the land development regulations will set forth what that development criteria is, any deviations from that criteria, what those standards will be, what you have to do in order to justify, or what conditions you may be affected by that would enable you to rebuild in your current spot. And so the implementing ordinance 1160 is going through the process that it goes through. 1159 is going through the process that it goes through. It's been to DEO. DEO had no issues with it. It's come back to you, and we have made very sure to the best of our knowledge and ability to make the 1159 and 1160 consistent. 1159 is the governing legislation, 1160 is the implementing bill. And so we will now take the implementing bill through its process of the PAB on Monday, July 23rd, and it comes back to you, Lenore, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what the date is in August.
I believe it's
The
no,
first?
you have August 1st, and then you have September 5th.
Thank you. So it'll have its two readings before City Council in August and September. So there's and I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion on that. We have addressed the non-conforming, we have identified variance opportunities, what will be allowed to even apply for a variance, what will be not allowed to apply for a variance, and what, under what conditions the homeowner will be able to either rebuild on their existing footprint, which may be seaward of that coastal construction control line, or under what conditions, if there's substantial damage or it's a vulnerable structure or in imminent danger, that it would have to be set back. But again, as Mr. Ferguson, I believe, Ms. Barker indicated, we have, in removing it from this line, we have expanded the envelope both on the sides and in the front. So we've eliminated side setbacks except for the breezeway, and we have virtually eliminated the front setback or the western setback to 5 feet. And the height over in that area is substantial, so that there's ample room and an ample envelope for both reasonable use of the property as well as substantial use of the property.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you had a question?
Just, and Rochelle or Courtney, whoever wants to clarify this, I mean, John touched on it, but clarify why 59 has to go forward now versus having it as a companion with the other one. Just clarify.
Well, you basically do your comprehensive plan first,
Okay.
and then your implementing ordinance follows that.
Okay.
So that's really why. So it's not confusing.
This
You
is just
can't
basically-
adopt an ordinance without the comp plan being done first.
Okay. And so this becomes a template before the work. Gotcha. Okay. I just wanted that clarified.
And just to be clear, the city is not taking property. The ocean is taking property. The city is trying to help people move their properties closer and away from the ocean, and quite frankly, protecting the city, because like you just heard tonight, the other question is, why did the city let them build so close? So, you know, we will get a challenge either way, and we're at that stage. And this is a highly eroded, designated a highly eroding area by DEP. You can just Google it and it pops right up. We put sand on the beach every 4 years, basically, trying to shore up our dunes every time we have a storm. This is not an area where we can repeatedly do what we're continuing to do, because it's putting people too close to the ocean. And, you know, when we are looking at protecting the beaches from hardening in the future, these are the type of steps we have to take. And that's really the purpose of this entire endeavor, is to protect the property owner, protect the city, and protect the dune, the natural dune system.
Thank you.
So are you looking at 0 lot lines minus the breezeway? What kind of things are you looking at?
The front would be 5 feet.
Okay.
And the sides, we eliminated the setback for that particular property within that zoning district, and set up within this EAA district kind of its own requirements. So on the sides, it's 0, except for meeting the breezeway.
That's fine.
And so it can be all the way this way. There is a 5-foot requirement elsewhere in the code where it's a landscape strip, but that can be part of the breezeway. That counts towards the breezeway.
Yeah, that was the question I was asking, is 0 except for the breezeway. So
Right.
I got you now. Okay, that answers
Trying to
it.
get flexibility to move the
Amen. No, I'm
property
with you.
around.
I got you.
know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was one of the things. I'm glad you clarified it, brought it up, because I know that one gentleman talked about the breezeway, and I know when we initially talked about this, we were talking about doing something with the whole envelope to make it easier for people, to be able to utilize their property a little bit better, so.
Right, you can shift one way or the other.
Okay, great.
So basically, what we've done is actually give them more room to build, correct?
Yeah.
That's the plan anyhow, yes.
Okay.
Do we know, do we have a percentage of, because there's going to be some buildings that regardless of what we're doing are going to be unbuildable on their lots. Do we know how many properties those are going to be?
I do not. No, we do not. And I'll tell you because for different situations, if it's erosion, there is that's sort of its own category. That's the most serious of categories. If you're If the land is eroded out from underneath you, then that's a very serious situation.
Right, of course.
And we have to have managed retreat. If there's damage to your foundation that makes it a vulnerable structure and it's substantial, then it can't be repaired and you're going to have to go. But if it's less than substantial damage, if it's storm surge, if it's hurricanes, if it's sea level rise, then there's opportunities for you to rebuild within your current, on your current foundation, within your current envelope, basically, as long as there's no damage to the foundation. So there's a lot of flexibility built in, but yet there's, some stringency too, so.
So the other thing too is when you look at unbuildable, if you look at the properties now, they're unbuildable today. I mean, they couldn't build what they have there today, even with our current code. So I think that needs to be pointed out too.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, some of these structures, if you see that line going in the middle of their property, they can't do anything now. So that needs to be, clear.
Because right now, if I can just tag team on that, right now your code says RM3, commercial, RM4, those properties who are adjacent to the CCCL, the Coastal Construction Control Line, that's the rear setback. There's no more going seaward of that. So right now, it's the CCCL. And what this proposes and what 1160 proposes is to create a buffer between the CCCL and the edge of the building envelope to create a protection for the private property owner.
And that's the 15 feet you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
And protection for the city's dune system.
Correct.
Because the more pressure we get for beach renourishment projects and the less sand we can obtain, things like that, the more disasters that come through, you'll see more interest in hardening the dune system. And that's one of the things we're trying to avoid, considering we're one of the high sea turtle areas, for nesting, and, the natural dune system is something we want to protect. And that's very clear in our comprehensive plan. It always has been.
Thank you. Further questions from council at this time? Do we have a motion already?
Yes.
Okay.
In a second.
Yes. Further discussion? Jim, anything? Thank you. Laura?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. And it'll go to P&Z at 11, or PAV, 1160 will.
On Monday. And you can go on our web today and see that? Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on to back to agenda item 7, presentation of, let me ask everybody, it's good, need a break or anything, or?
No, I'm good. I didn't like that one.
5 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
At all.
This time, we'll take a recess when it comes in for 5 minutes. Right. Thank you.
Let everybody go.
Huh?
I'm sorry. Did you just recess?
I did. Yes. Is that a good move?
Ready?
I am. Reconvene the council meeting July 18th, 2018, approximately 8:10. This time we'll go to agenda item 7, presentation of overview of final Citizens Budget Committee report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. You will recall that at your last council meeting on July the 3rd, you had the formal presentation by the Citizens Budget Committee presenting their results, their recommendations as a result of their series of meetings over a recent 3-month period. Just for purposes of discussion of this item, for those who may not be familiar with it, essentially, City Council solicited members of the community to come together in a Citizens Budget Committee to provide us with recommendations and advice as we go into this upcoming budget year. And part of the reason for that is we're faced with a number of financial challenges. 2 hurricanes in 1 fiscal year affecting our reserves. We are struggling to appropriately and significantly fund infrastructure, capital needs that continue to rise up. We've had a number of unfunded unbudgeted, I should say, items, including, as a big example, the community center AC that went out last year, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on these things that we did not have available. But as things are not maintained because we haven't had the funding, we're looking for additional funds to handle that issue. And then probably the other biggest thing to mention is the expected additional homestead exemption that is going to be on the ballot this November. If approved in the next fiscal year for 1920, the city would lose approximately $600,000 in revenue on an ongoing basis. So 7 members of the committee, of the city were appointed to the budget committee. They had several goals. They were to review revenues, find opportunities to increase existing revenues or identify new revenues. They were to look at expenditures and identify changes to those expenditures to maintain existing services, but lower those costs to provide those services, and just any other, make any other suggestions on changing service delivery. So they did a great job. You met 5 of the 7 who were able to attend the meeting on July 3rd. And they have this written report that documents everything that they put together, including all of the recommendations that they presented to you at that last meeting. So that's what this document is. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions? Before I just want to state, great job. I know you had a minimal amount of time, really, and I think the committee was really good overall. And it was interesting. I was talking to people about this committee, and myself, I knew really nobody on the committee, Larry a little. But other than that, they were a whole new group of eyes looking at this. And I think, to me, that was the important thing, was to get that, different group of eyes sitting down and seeing it. So please tell them thank you, and thank you for putting this. Other questions?
I just had just a quick comment. I know we're trying to rush, but the new revenue, increased existing revenues page, I thought they had some really good ideas. It was pretty, I love, and I just want to just go out there and say this, that I would love to see the rec center add more academic programs, and I love the idea of, doing STEM or STEAM or the robotics programs or Lego robot. I mean, we really, being where we're at in this engineering, it would be really nice to really offer some after school stuff. Yeah, I mean, anything I can help to get that going, I'm all in on that.
Well, I'll say, based on Cassie's comments, our recreation director at the meetings, the only things that limit us, it seems, would be availability of space, if they're already filled up by existing programs, and finding teachers, which for different classes, she mentioned, I don't know about robotics, but she mentioned certain art classes, it's been hard to find and keep teachers who would come and provide those. And then, of course, there's the
I know everybody. Just have them come to me. I will find teachers. And if we're interested or we want to do this, my husband, I mean, there's the robot wars, or just, sorry, we can have a conversation about this at offsite. Let's do that.
Thank you.
I'll be brief. This is one of the first committees that's ever been done in our city where we as council trying to stay away. And, to look at what got presented and all this information, I'm just blown away by the breadth of what they undertook and what they went through. So, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Great job. Okay. Any further discussion? Let me open up for public comment on this agenda item. The floor is open. Hearing no public comment. Back to council staff. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda number 8, discuss take action on beach access. Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. On October 17, 2007, we entered into a developers agreement with Oceana Club, LLC, and developer Maurice Kodzi, basically for the former Ramada site. In that developers agreement, we requested and received a 6-foot easement on the south border of the property for the purpose of a beach access, and this will join another 6-foot easement on the Lung RX property. And as soon as we get this in place, we'll begin permitting and construction of that walking path and dune crossover and open that to the public. So we're requesting your approval for that this evening.
Thank you. And questions on it? Is there, and I can't remember back, I remember us doing this 17 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Are they going to help and develop that? I think they're not going to help us put trees or, no, I can't remember what exactly We had told them that.
They were just giving us the property.
The property? Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Any further? Okay, do I have a motion?
Go ahead, Mark.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the beach access easement with Oceana Oceanfront Development LLC.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilman Osmer. At this time, open up agenda item 8 for public comment. Hearing none, back to council. Any further?
This was a great deal that we did with Maurice Kotze. Not only did we get the 3 acre, the 3 acres of Gemini there, but we got this at the same time, so it was a great opportunity.
And we have
I
the
think
one
the
on
surfers would have rioted if we
Well, we
didn't
have
get
the
the
other,
access.
no, we have the other one too, still, RCs, on the other side by the wall.
side,
So we gained one, and as soon as that development's done, that other one will open back up. So,
Just one quick question of John. It doesn't have anything to do with this motion or anything. How, are those condos pretty much on track for finishing on time, or how's?
Yes, the south building, I would say within, we'll conservatively say 60 days, but I suspect maybe sooner. The south building and the clubhouse are due to come online at the same time, but they got some cosmetics and, some things. We got the easement. This is one of the reasons why we got the easement, because they're anxious to try to get their COs, and we made it really clear that no CO without the easement, as well as the landscape enhancement money, which we also just received. So, yeah, it's on track. I think the north building is set for like July 2019 to be completed, and it's probably close to about 90%, if not 95% sold out.
That's what
the south
my
building
next
is sold
question
out.
is. Okay. South building is sold out?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Thank
John, thank you.
Wow.
Okay, any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay, one more?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 9, discuss take action on memorandum of understanding with Brevard County for the intergovernmental radio communications program.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in 2007, City Council approved a memorandum of understanding with Brevard County for the purpose of establishing an advisory committee comprised of representatives of various city and county members to basically agree on what the $12.50 monies would be used for. And those dollars are money that is actually assessed to any traffic violation where there's a civil penalty. Those dollars are per Florida statutes dedicated for purchasing components for maintenance and upkeep of the countywide radio system, essentially for public safety response and all that. So this advisory committee, this is the agreement that governs what they do and how the committee is constructed, representatives from different cities, et cetera. So the county has simply provided us with an updated memorandum of understanding that was approved by the county commissioners on April 10, 2018. Some minor changes in the construction of the advisory committee. Our city representative is Mary Johnson, who is our communications supervisor, and she's been on this committee for many years, and she'll continue there. So no effect to us there, and there was some other language change that directs or clarifies how different parties could terminate the agreement and what things could lead to termination. But essentially, very minimal change to this, and this is just something that carries on as it has for a number of years.
Okay, thank you. Do we do this every year? I mean, this agreement is every couple of years.
It hasn't come back to us since we approved it in '07.
I guess I'm just getting old. I remember doing this thing at times, so.
Getting,
Sorry.
wait a minute, what? Getting
Thank
old?
you.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding with Brevard County for intergovernmental radio communication program.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilwoman Gibson.
I'll second it.
At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 9. Hearing any public comment? Any further, council? Hearing none? One more?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11 now, resolution 1004. Jim?
Resolution number 1004, a resolution of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, honoring 50 years of municipal home rule in the Florida Constitution and committing to an educational initiative to help Floridians understand this beneficial right providing an effective date. Reading of resolution number 1004.
This is Dom's area here.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 1004.
Motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer.
This is a resolution that the Florida League of Cities basically put out for all the cities to do, so.
Yeah. Thank you, Don. Any further discussion? At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 11. Hearing none, back to council. Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank Dominic for bringing it to us. Appreciate it. Moving on to agenda item 13, my count's right here. Discuss, take action on agreement with Dean, Mead, Edgerton, Leavenworth, I'll leave the others, to represent the city. Okay. To represent the city of interest in state level. Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. The city is looking at, for the next legislative session, issues with the vacation rentals, as well as we're trying to submit a legislative appropriation request for our canal dredging issues, which actually is good news at this point because the county has agreed to go ahead and file our permitting for us, so we can get ahead on the permitting, and with the anticipation that hopefully we'll get this appropriation through. So we would like to hire a lobbyist to follow that through. This is the same lobbyist that Indian Harbor Beach is hiring, and we met with her, Carly, and kind of went over what her experience and things were, and we felt that she was definitely able to handle this, and we would get that kind of a, I guess a better rate because we're combining forces with Indian Harbor Beach, and they're also wanting to do the same legislative appropriation, so we're going to be submitting that at the same time as they are. So we're hoping to get this lobbyists on board. At the same time, we're hoping to decrease we're in negotiations to decrease our federal lobbyists' workload this coming budget year, so we can bring this in as a wash financially in the budget. Okay.
Thank you. Discussion from council?
As long as it's a wash.
So this is Carrie Roth.
Okay with it. That's correct. Or Carrie, I'm sorry.
Working with, yeah. She has ties here.
Yes,
She
she
grew
does.
up here.
Yep.
It's great that we're working with somebody that knows and understands the dynamics of what we're dealing with here.
She very clearly understands water issues, environmental issues.
Yeah, the mucking's going to be a huge issue, and that and rentals.
Yep.
I mean, those are two major issues. Any further? At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 13. Hearing none?
I'll make a motion to approve the mayor to execute the agreement with Dean Mead et al. To represent the city's interest at the state level.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilman Osmer. Lenore?
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Moving on to agenda item 14, discuss, take action on council goal setting for 1819. So, I can tell you mine. I think the facilities and infrastructure, to me, has got to be on the top. I mean,
Yeah,
being in
I
River
agree.
Lagoon and so forth is there, and that's very big, and being a county, I look at that and home rule being more county-type things, and though, yes, we want them, but to me, the infrastructure and our facilities, to me, have, just because of the sheer cost of this stuff.
And the age of them, too.
And the age of them, it's,
Yeah, that,
I'd have to go with that.
yeah, you invest in your assets and you maintain them, or they cost more money down the road. We don't want to be like in the boat that the county is in right now, you know?
and again, yes, continue to work on projects for the lagoon. I think, to me, that's important, but we're tied in with the half-cent sales tax committee. Courtney sits on that. I sit on the NEP. So I think, that's important, but we don't directly, handle that, so.
Well, I
that's
definitely think the local business, we need to get more, we're starting to see it grow. We're getting, doubles coming here. We've got the Shuck Shack is coming to that building. So for me, it's just as much of a priority is to start filling those vacant commercial spaces and get those empty lots built. I mean, we definitely need that to be a priority, I think, as well.
Can we look at that particular item and maybe tie it into what we really need to do on A1A is to look at increasing the height to accommodate being able to do something with these parcels of land, because the way they sit right now, they're too small, they're non-conforming, and unless we're able to do something on the west side of A1A that's similar to the building that's right across the street from the A-frame, that when that burned down, council at the time had the ability to go up a little bit higher, and we accommodated them, and they built a beautiful building there. We need to be able to do that on the rest of the parcels of A1A, and we need to do something to get our citizens to understand that we're not going to be able to do anything with these until we're able to do something with height. And that should be part of whatever this goal is here. If we're going to do this, it's got to be a two-pronged effect to move forward.
Got it.
Sounds good.
Any other? Okay.
One
thing, okay, go.
The money that the county approved yesterday from tourist development tax, are we going to be able to use any of that to demuck too? I mean, are there projects that we can use some of that funding for?
I think if it had a tourism-related focus, but we don't really have that in our community.
Can we help them build our beach crossover at the new 10 feet, 12 feet that we just got? That's tourist development.
But it's not directed to the Indian River Lagoon.
Well, they do community projects that are tourist-related.
And
You know,
that's
so that's,
tourist-related?
Yeah.
we had like a major, but when you look at like what their projects are, it's like the Vieira soccer stadium, you know, and AstroTurf and building that so they can bring in amateur soccer leagues. And then they're doing a small project. The only small project I know of is Indian Harbor Beach with the oars and paddles, largely because of the paddling people. But most of their projects are very large regional tourist attractions that, like Lori Wilson Park, which is a massive park, you know, redoing that. That's actually almost a $30 million project, so.
Well, let's see if,
Can't hurt.
I'm saying,
It is a famous surf spot.
You ever see our beach on a Saturday and Sunday? There's a whole lot of people here. And
Well, we would just need to know what projects you want to do, you know, because they're not going to help you maintain it, but they'll help you expand it to attract tourists.
And even Gemini Park. I mean, if we ask, if they say no, they say no. But I mean, if we can look at doing some of the improvements that we're looking at there.
we did great on grants before.
So that park, the vision from the community was to make it a pedestrian park for the neighborhood.
To the very
It's
tourist.
still touristy.
Okay.
There's
See what
good
you can
tourists there.
Especially since we don't have vacation
I'm trying to
rentals.
kindly tell you that we don't really have a tourist economy in Satellite Beach, so it'd be very hard to justify
Tourists to live
tourist
on
dollars.
Glenwood Ave, I know.
Yeah. One other thing.
I will also like to throw this out there, just for, since it's talking about tourist issues, is you just need to consider what strings they attach, considering the tourist-oriented thing is not something the city's really historically looked at, and especially when you're looking at vacation rentals as an issue.
Okay, good to know.
Point taken.
One thing, and this is kind of maybe inner city. I've said this, and maybe it's kind of, I can make it a goal to the fire chief, or temporary fire chief. Great fire department. I just want everybody to know that it's a great fire department. And I just think they need to sell themselves better out there. And I think as a goal, they need to show that to the community. I guarantee you, we know what they do, but not the number of people I think that should really know the great service they provide. And so, and the police does it. They do their police academy, and it gets out. But I want to see them to sell themselves a little better.
They're actually developing that
Good.
right now. Yeah.
Well, just saying. Okay.
A PR, they need a PR person.
Since this is an agenda item, I'll open up for public comment. Hearing none? Council? Consensus?
Census.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 15. Please take a look at it for The next meeting, yes, proposed special meeting, the 25th. And we got a few next week, so.
Yeah, we got one on the 24th, too.
24, we have, remember, that's infrastructure. 25th, so please take a look at that for the budget. The next page for future meetings, the August 1st regular meeting. Okay? Great, yes, and I see 1160 is first on the list. Let's keep it there. Moving on to agenda item 16, approval of minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from June 20th, the City Council workshop meeting, and the City Council regular meeting on July 3rd, 2018. I think that's it.
Second. I have a motion by Councilman Gibson, second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Staff, thank you very much again for the budget. Courtney, thank you for your hard work. Appreciate it. Any further business? Meeting's adjourned.
A little light reading on my plane trip, for my plane trip.
Courtney, we got to have a talk. So it's 8:30. When I became mayor, I said no meetings.
Past 9,
Okay.
okay? And not only that, but Mark Breimer, when he chaired the meeting, he got out in like 15 minutes.
That's because you're trying
So
to.
maybe
That's
it's
because
the
you're
chair.
trying to.
Well, but I had to beat this, which kept us here until 11 o'clock at night.
Right.